Daya, apart from telling us, talking to your topic, we do want you to talk about SAPA as well.
Thank you, colleagues. Very good afternoon to you. It's good to be here. It's good to have someone who can punt another organization, so that's good. A little bit about SAPA and about myself, whom I'm sure many of you do know. I've been seconded to the ministry by the Minister of Education as it last year, the October. Now, Ruben played a very critical role in terms of that, so to ensure that it happens as well from the side of the GDE. Now, we hold a full-time office at the DBE on behalf of principals. And just to let you know, like tomorrow, we have a critical meeting on the 4+1. You all must have heard that, especially if you're secondary school principals, where we're going to be consulted about whether this 4+1 works, whether as principals we think it can work in schools, and obviously I'm going to be representing a mandate of the principals with many other principals being present there as well. And so that becomes critical in terms of being part of a professional network. Now, as you all know, we're all members of unions, and that we will always be. But like maths teachers belong to AMISA because they want to know more about mathematics, principals need to belong to professional networks. And therefore, SAPA has become the home of many principals, and it's growing by the day. Because we want to have branches of principals in different areas. We want provincial compositions of principals and so forth. So currently we have all 9 provinces. Principals are represented in every province. We've got executive committees in every province and obviously representing themselves. We meet with the DBE 3 times a year. We get points and agenda points directly from the principals through their constituencies to inform us in terms of our debates and our negotiations. As you would know, the promotions, for example, that took place, the grade 7, 8, and 9, SAPA was directly responsible for ensuring that they dropped that rate in terms of promotion. I presented a paper already in August informing the ministry and in terms of the DDGs that this is not going to work. You are going to find a high failure rate in schools in grade 7, 8, and 9 based on the promotion requirements. So that's just one example of what we're doing. I'm glad to see we have some colleagues here from the GDE who are present, some of my colleagues who work with me, like Louisa and Usha. They're working directly with me on the task team for the new standards for principalship as well as the new code of conduct that will be developed in terms of the role of the principal in the school. And of course, working that out, you're going to find that during the course of this year, there's going to be a pronouncement by the minister in terms of new standards for principals, which will then go to the ELRC in terms of negotiation, and so principals will have to then look at different ways of doing things. There are proposals at the moment of competency assessments for principals to take on the role in the position as principal. There are talks about that you cannot become a principal if you're not a deputy anymore, and all those things become part of the negotiation. So your voice is very important, but we the voice that presents some of the things that you'd like us to do. So in short, I think that's some of the the things in terms of SAPA. But understand that we need to have that stronger voice, and having that stronger voice means numbers. And in the chamber, we've got governing body structures here today who will tell you it's all about the numbers game. If you want a louder voice, you have more people, more members. And I'd like to encourage all of you to sign up. I've got membership forms here today for you to send it in and to become a member. We have got our MEC, Mr. Lesufi, who will be meeting us at the breakfast next Friday, and was a good partner in terms of SAPA. He listens to our voice. As a GDE, we have our provincial executive members who meet with him and with members of the GDE and so forth. So clearly, whatever issues you might have, you need to communicate that through to my office. I'll give you details of it. You'll see the SAPA details, the email addresses, and so on. You can get that through. So I don't want to oversell SAPA today. I think there's lots of booklets out there. There's articles. There's conferences. By the way, we'll be hosting our next conference is the Gauteng part of SAPA at UJ Soweto campus, possibly around April. That's coming up this year. The conference chairperson is here also. Tulari, where are you? I see there's Tulari Bapalpe. He is the chairperson of the conference committee for this year, and he'll be negotiating some of those things through you. So quickly, in terms of governance, I think it's a very important topic that we're here for today. And in terms of measuring governance, the principal's role as a member of the governing body is absolutely vital. Now, Ruben mentioned about some critical aspects in terms of governance versus management. I can say very simply that in terms of governance, there are certain functions the governing body has got a responsibility too. We key as principals are in charge of curriculum management. That's our core function. That's what we should be worried about mostly, because of teaching and learning, and because result orientation is become the order of the day. But when you look at the issues of governance, we become pivotal. Now I can tell you, if you want to get it right, then some of these things that I brought, it's on the table and so on, maybe my colleague Wendy can raise those books on my left-hand side, those books there. Firstly, we need to know legislation and regulation. Everything we do is about regulation and legislation. If we as principals don't know SASA, if we don't know the guidelines for governing body elections, we don't know the booklets on electoral officers and their duties, then people take advantage of us. I'm sure all of you might have seen this pamphlet that's going around. Play your part in school governing body SGBs. And this tells you exactly the role of the SGB, the functions of the SGB, and what they do. Now, as a principal, having been there for some time myself, I know we can get it totally right and we can get it totally wrong. How do we get it right? The first thing is to respect that we are members of the SGB. That when we sit in meetings of the SGB, that we take collective decisions. You know, I used to always tell my staff when I was at school, and especially the teacher component, when you come to the governing body, you're not anymore a member of the staff, you're the member of the governing body. When you take decisions, you take it in the best interest of the school and the entire school community. You don't come there to represent the interest of the staff. You come there to look at the best interest of the school. The same thing with the principal. You don't come there to sort of position yourself in a particular way so it favors you. You come there with an interest and an agenda which is common to everyone and which informs the decisions of that body. The worst thing that principals do is to have meetings with governing body members outside meetings. You have a meeting, the meeting stops, the meeting is closed, some members leave, other members stay, and then another meeting takes place. And some of those decisions become the better decisions in terms of the school. And you find telephone calls with principals and certain SGB members that take place to try and get a vote at the meeting that's going to take place. And so those things clearly is about an integrity question. And I think when one sits on a governing body, your professional ethics come into play. And that's why we as SAPA are pushing the line that we want our principals to be more ethical in the way we do things. You know, we want to lay blame on government. Tonight is the State of Nations address. I'm sure all of you want to rush home and watch it. And we all want to see about the ethical considerations that's taking place in government. We are government in the school. We are the governors. We make up that governing body. We participate in the governing body. And therefore, as those governors, our integrity is also at question. When it comes to posts in school, we play a vital role. We normally sit on that panel with parent members and others. When we have to recommend certain educators, we come with an agenda. We orchestrate with governing body members which teachers should get the post. And I want to say today categorically, we need to start changing our mindset as professionals in terms of the governing body elections. Now the election's coming up soon. Already by now, I'm sure many schools have sent out nomination forms. Parents are nominating themselves through people seconding them and so on. Some principals take those forms and shove it because they don't want their parent to get onto the governing body. It's an integrity question. You've got voters' rolls. We know certain parents are going to pitch up for that election. The question is, how do we dictate those voters' rolls? Do we actually now question certain people's credentials, or do we question everyone's credentials? If we don't want a certain person on, we question their credentials. What are you? Are you a parent? Are you a guardian? Are you this? Are you that? Just to make sure we make life as difficult as possible. Then we are going to get people who come and want to be part of the governing body elections. And they approach you as principal and they say, I've adopted this child, I'm paying this child's school fees, etc., etc. And you turn a blind eye. Now, I like the idea that we have electoral officers who are neutral because we turn with schools. And when turning with schools, we also need to ensure that we don't get anywhere near those electoral officers to make them show a bias in terms of what's going to happen in terms of the process. I think the other question comes in is when we sit in those meetings and we ensure meetings get called up as soon as possible. The handover process is very important. Now, you know, we normally say the handover can't take place because some members have left. The principal is the one who actually is in that position to call that meeting for the handover, to ensure the correct documents are being handed over. When it comes to all the policies, admissions policy, language policy, etc., etc., we are key to informing those policies because we play a part on the governing body. I think the other thing I want to quickly step off, course I'll talk forever if you don't stop me, right? Is the other thing is in terms of governance issues where Mr. Ruben Ralapate said, governing body members come to some schools daily. You'll see them more than you see the principal sometimes. They actually occupy the principal's office. And when you walk in, you'll get confused. And I've been exposed to that, where I took over a school, asked by the department to take over their school because the governing body was interfering in running the school. And when I took over, and I think the department was present, when I told the governing body chairperson at the time, on Monday when I walk in, you walk out. That was my words. Because I run the school day to day, you run the governance. And governing bodies can make your life very difficult, especially when they see you being difficult. Now, you're not being difficult. Can I tell you what you're doing? You're actually being right. When you do the right thing, you don't fall into the trap of the integrity question. The minute you partner with them on corrupt issues, you become part of them. And then they say, but why do you want to do it differently now? You are part of the decision. And therefore, I always say, and I agree with Mr. Ralapate, principals must understand that meeting of the governing body can't take place without you being present. Yes. No parents can meet on their own and take a decision on behalf of the school without you being there. Unless you're indisposed, then your deputy automatically takes on your role and that meeting carries on and is acting in your capacity. Now, some principals all have this, this authority. If I'm not at school, no meeting will take place. Then how does the school function? You can't run the school via satellite. You can't write with a mobile phone. And therefore, if you're going to be out for 3 weeks, you're going on a holiday or somewhere, you've taken leave, then the school functions. The acting principal carries on with the function in deputizing, and now is ex officio. And I think we need to start understanding our role as being ex officio in the position on the governing body. And I think I want to end off by saying very quickly that these three key elements, deciding the admission policy, deciding the language policy, establishing a policy on religion, adopting a school's code of conduct, administering control over the school's property and the budget, and determining the school's annual fees, is the role of the school governing body. And sometimes we interfere and we meddle in those functions. You can't hire a school out as principal to anyone. You need the school governing body's permission. You can't go and let and lease without the governing body being part of it. And so, in short, as a professional to my colleagues who are professionals out there, I think we need to change the mindset and also the view of spectators in the community out there, that we are not corrupt individuals, that we actually work in terms of the new democracy in this country. We want to uphold the constitutional rights of everyone. We want to uphold democracy. We need to uphold it in a professional manner. Thank you.